Okay, so what I'd like to do now, before we get into a discussion about the survey results, because I think it would be helpful for you all to specifically hear from the representatives we have from different fashion associations or fashion-related associations. That way that can maybe be part of the conversation about the survey results. So after we hear from them, we'll just take some time to have an open discussion, whatever it is you're thinking, any feedback you have, questions that weren't answered that you're thinking about, just sort of a general brainstorming session. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Rustin. Do you mind going first? Is Rustin? I was going to say, I don't remember Rustin introducing himself. So we won't start with Rustin then. Carol, do you want to go first? Of course.
Well, it's just a little bit off. I'm representing FGI. Not sure who's going to talk about DDI.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So, Fashion Group International is an international networking association. 7,000 members around the globe. Started in New York in 1928. I printed off, I always make my students in fashion industries learn this too. These were the original members. And I'm sitting there going, it must have been a room just like this. They were all going, oh, we need to be taken seriously and we need to promote our industry. These were the originals. Elizabeth Arden, Margaret Case, Eleanor Roosevelt, Helena Rubinstein, Julia Coburn, Lily Daché, Jessica Daves, Nan Duskin. Some of you are so young you would never know these names. But some of us are old. I can see the labels. The labels with the International Lady Garment Workers Union label too. Eleanor Lemaire, Claire McCardle, Claire Potter, Virginia Pope, Dorothy Shaver, Adele Simpson, Carmel Snow, and Miss Toby of Toby Coburn report. Anyway, so it's a professional networking association. We have executive. I'm the regional director for Denver. I'm 9 days into this, but I've been a member since 1988. When I moved to Denver from New York, I thought the end of the world had come. And I moved because of a husband. And I worked in retail and then got into Emily Griffith as a sketching teacher, and they invited me to a fashion group meeting, and at that point I found my community. And so I'm pretty passionate about it. I also network in New York and California. I place internships for our students, and so I use it a lot outside of Denver, and I would say that's one thing you need to think about with Fashion Group is it expands beyond the Denver boundaries or Colorado boundaries. And we do we're a nonprofit, and it's all volunteer. And we focus on monthly programs that help educate. And then every year we have a gala event, and we alternate between Rising Star, which we just had last October, where we feature emerging companies in different categories. So a little bit different, brand new, between 2 and 7 years old. And then in the even years, so this year we have FACE. It used to be a career day. It was geared towards students and young people, but we changed that 2 years ago, made it much more about looking at the industry and who are the resources available. We'll have another one. It's called FACE, Fashion and Creative Industries, and it will be in September. To sign the contract, September 15th. It's going to be on sustainable fashion focus this year.
Thank you. So I'll invite Brandy up next.
Rustin just walked in.
Rustin, do you mind if we call you up right now to talk a little bit about FGI, or excuse me, DDI?
I don't mind at all.
Thank you.
So maybe Lisa at the FGA.
Okay.
Lisa.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. So Hi, everyone.
Tell me.
Just a brief summary, kind of. Okay. Well, DDI is a nonprofit. It's still in its early stages of development. We've been meeting for about 2 years now. And it's really resource center and business development professional centers. So the idea is to bring together all of the industry professionals in the business world and also fashion design and provide resources and education through workshops and mentorship for the creative industry in Denver. And really the idea came from an area of realizing there's so many creative, talented people, and there's really a critical mass of them happening in Denver. And a lot of people are just feeling like they either need to move to LA or New York to get the experience they need or get the jobs that they need, or they just don't have the marketing and the business and the professional skill set to really take their creative talents to the next level. So what we've done is brought together like a really passionate, talented group of industry professionals, both in the business, legal, technical side of the industry. And for the last year, we've been providing workshops in all those different areas. In July, we started our Designer in Residence, which takes designers and gives them an intensive set of classes basically to develop their creative ideas into a viable business. That started in July and has been like super successful. We've had really good feedback. Our designers have come amazing leaps and bounds in developing their business. A lot of our instructors and people are here sitting in this room. Carol, who you just heard talk, has been involved since the beginning. Steve here at the beginning, front here. Kathy was involved for a while. Ginger has supported us for a long time. Feline is an amazing supporter of the group, and lots of other people in here as well. So it's really a program for Denver. It's a nonprofit, and the idea is really to continue to build it and continue to build our resources. There's a lot of restructuring happening right now to make it more accessible for everybody and to make it easier for people to come in at different levels and really work on their projects at an accelerated rate to get what they need out of it and really move on with developing their business and their creative ideas.
And you're doing something with the art museum soon.
And yes, we're collaborating with the Art Museum soon. Our current designer in residence are going to be showcasing some of their pieces, and then we're kind of in the talks of some other projects with them through that whole same program.
Where's your space?
The space right now, that's a good question. We're collaborating with Samuel at the iHeart Denver store, and we have a studio in the back with industrial sewing machines, and a cut table and space to hold workshops. Right now, we're currently renovating a new space, which is bigger and more accessible, and that's going to be part of Ralph's Power Sewing space over on 21st and Clay. And what's really great about that is they're already one of our partners. They provide all our industrial sewing machines, and the space has quite a bit more space. It's right next to where they sell all their equipment and supplies, which is excellent, and there's a lot of free parking, which has been really difficult for the downtown. So we're all really excited about that. So we're renovating the space right now. The idea is to open the doors to that space at the end of January. Yeah.
So it's GDI?
Yeah, Denver Design Incubator.
Oh,
DDI. And I brought on Wednesdays one of our wonderful board members, Reed, does free training on all the industrial sewing machines. So this is free studio time every Wednesday from noon to 4. It has contact info, address, and all that good stuff. So if anyone's interested, pick up one of these. You can check out the website, which is also being rebuilt right now, but grab one of these if you want. I'll leave them up front right here. Or buy the beer and snack.
Preston, tell them we're going to be having like shorter, intensive
Yeah.
prototyping.
Exactly. We're going to be doing shorter, more intensive prototyping workshops, and series to really focus on key areas and get people kind of like out the door, getting stuff that they can actually be selling and out on the market in a lot like quicker, more accelerated fashion. And then also be doing some fun workshops. We've been throwing around ideas like sip and sew and fun stuff like that for the community. Yeah. Any other questions for me? Yes.
What makes you like this?
What makes me like Denver? That's a great question. I think like Denver is special, and we're really coming into our own as a city. And like the food industry, the music industry, the creative industry, like just all the new buildings coming up. I think that this is really one of the best places to be in the country right now, and I'm really excited and honored to be here. And just seeing the level of talent and creativity continue to increase is pretty impressive.
Great.
All right, well, thank you guys.
Have a beer.
So good to see you.
Brandy, do you want to come up? Thank you. So we have Brandy from Fashion Denver next.
Brando.
Okay, Brando.
My new name is Brando. I just decided that today. It's a little more fun than Brandy. Hi guys, I am Brandy Shigley with Fashion Denver, and many of you guys are familiar faces, and it's awesome to see some new faces. I started an organization called Fashion Group International back in 1920. I started a company called Fashion Denver in 2004. I started this company after having a handbag business that I was just kind of doing it for fun, and I think I was so passionate about it that like a year and a half later after starting this business, I was selling my bags in boutiques in London and Paris and New York and across the country, and having to work with sewers and really having to learn how to have a small business. And when I moved back to Denver, I felt like Denver is a place where there's so many talented people. I want to create a company that really helps our designers grow and flourish. So in 2004, I started Fashion Denver, and originally it was started just doing the fashion markets. So basically every season I do a fashion market, and I started doing business development with the designers and really started to realize that my passion is in the entrepreneurship and in the business development side of things. So simultaneously really working with designers on business and creating these fashion markets. So then in 2009, I was like, we need to have a little store too. So I opened up a retail space originally on 321 West 11th Avenue. It was 600 square feet. And then less than a year later, we expanded to 1,445 square feet over to our current location at 1070 Bannock. And just recently, maybe 3 weeks ago, I realized during a consulting meeting, I also teach a workshop called Do What You Love, Love What You Do. And one of the things I was saying was don't spend time on things that are keeping you from what you're truly passionate about. So it was right then and there, after I had said this a few times in a few consulting meetings, that I was like, I am totally not doing what I'm really passionate about. So I decided almost overnight that I wanted to close the retail side of Fashion Denver so I could focus on the business development side. And it's interesting because I wanted to do everything. I wanted to have a boutique, be a consultant, write a book, do this, do that. And I've been reading this book called The Power of Less, and it has been changing the whole perspective, my whole perspective on everything. What? It's really changed my perspective, and one of the things that it talks about is really discovering your essential being. What is it that you want to focus your time on? So right then and there, I'm like, I want to focus on the business development and the entrepreneurship side of working with designers and entrepreneurs. So our boutique's going to be around for till the end of January. We're going to have a big party to celebrate. Fashion Denver, though, is not going anywhere. We're still doing our seasonal fashion markets, still doing the fashion shows. I'm co-producing Frock Out with Chris Loffelmacher. 3 of our judges are here today. And then I'll also be the fashion pavilion manager at the Denver County Fair. So that was exciting, just to kind of have some big projects to work on. But so I guess for the most part, what Fashion Denver is really focusing on this year is working on the business development with the designers, connecting our designers to the industry. Like, I'm so happy that you exist, Jessica. Like, I feel like you really play, you are like a piece of the puzzle that is really going to help move us forward. So for me, I know that I don't know everything about fashion. I know what I do know a lot about is following your heart, being passionate in the things that you do. I know about marketing and branding, and I know people. So I feel like one of the big assets of Fashion Denver is being able to connect people, being able to introduce people, and being like, if I don't know the answer, I know somebody who does. So basically, that is what we do: seasonal fashion markets and business development, and really connecting and continuing to grow, work with all of you guys to grow our fashion community. Yes.
Can you expand a little on what your seasonal fashion markets are?
Sure. So every season, sometimes they're 3 times a year, sometimes they're 4. I will host a fashion market that features 20 to 30 different designers, all Colorado-based at some cool venue. The past 2 years, it's been at the Grant Humphreys Mansion, but this year I'm going to change it up a little bit and do the next market at Taxi, go back to Taxi. And it's really an opportunity for designers to come together, to sell their designs, to invite boutiques and the media, and really just to give designers a place where they can connect with each other and they can learn from each other. And really, I think that the most fulfilling thing for me with Fashion Denver is seeing our designers connect to each other to create other things. Like, that's really, I love that. I love to just see people work together and kind of create a whole new something or other. Any other questions? Okay.
Thanks so much, Brandy.
You're welcome.
And then Lisa, do you mind coming up and talking about bread drinks?
Thank you for coming tonight. This is really great to see everybody here. In speaking about red drinks, it was initially started as a conversation between Trisha Hoke, Deb Henriksen, and myself, and my role as Director of Strategic Initiatives for our fashion group. And we decided that we needed to have a place that we can network and have a little bit of information given, but the rest of the time is spent having a good time getting to know each other. And it's been very successful. It's been held at Double Daughters down on Market Street in Lodo. We're contemplating moving it around a little bit. However, it's been held on the first Tuesday of every month, and everybody knows that if they want to hang out and find out who's who and what's going on, that it's an open forum, open mic opportunity to come and introduce yourself and introduce your ideas, find out who's got something going on that you want to participate in. And that's why your comment about, Brandy, about everybody working together to create something is great, because I think the comment here on board, on the board, I guess that's my educator coming out in me, that we need to have a cohesive voice. It gives us a chance to actually speak to each other and figure out what else we can do. So we're taking a break here in January because Trisha's in China, and Deb and I are working on putting together a new calendar of events. We like to do it every 6 months. So if anybody has anything that they want to do or want to present at Red Drinks, come and see me, or get in touch with Deb Henriksen, or post something on the Facebook page. And we should have a calendar coming out now in the next few weeks. So are there any questions about Red Drinks?
Remind them Red Drinks has its own Facebook page.
Oh, Red Drinks has its own Facebook page, and you can also connect through the Fashion Group page or Colorado Sewn page or this page, I believe, the Fashion Association page. Is it?
We don't have a fan page.
We don't have a.
You don't have a fan
No,
page yet?
nothing yet.
Okay, well, we have to hurry up and get one of those.
Somebody did say something on Facebook today about starting a group, so
Uh-huh.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
We'll
cool.
at least start a group
So,
as we're moving along.
cool.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you, Lisa. Okay, thank you so much to everybody who's willing to share what your organizations are doing, and something, I think that's helpful, because even though all of you probably have heard of these organizations or involved with them, to hear everybody speak back to back like that, I think gives you an idea of what there's space for and what the overlap is and all the good things people are doing, but how this association might pull those things together or do something different.
I just wonder, I wasn't probably expected tonight, but I could talk about Tactile. It's a major
That would be
organization.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
I'm
would
not
be
on the
great.
agenda, but
Come on up.
Addendum to the agenda.
addendum. Yeah, I just wanted, because it's a good chance to give a good summary.
And I want to say something really quickly too. You are one of the pioneers here in
Mhm.
Denver
Yes.
and
Oh,
deserve
thank
lots
you.
of respect.
Absolutely.
Feels that way.
Can you explain what you do? Before you go into
Yeah.
Tactile, can you tell us a little bit about the history of your history?
Of
Because-
my story,
Yeah.
maybe, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel very much a part of each of you, because I've been trying to make a living in the fashion industry in Denver since I got out of college. And I love it here. I'm a native of Denver. But I ended up going from fashion design at CSU into merchandising. My degree ended up in merchandising. And then a fabric buyer in Denver for a small retail store, specialty. At the time when fabrics were getting, the department stores used to carry them all, and they were getting rid of them. So these little independent stores were popping up and carrying the nicer quality fabrics. At the same time, Cloth World, which is now Joann's and Hancock's, and all the big chain stuff was coming up as the competition. So there was a real division between what's good fabric and what's really not so good fabric, and educating the public to know the difference. So I kind of evolved as a buyer at a store called Buttons and Trims, which very few people would know that store now. But yeah, it was a great place for me to start my career. But then I went from that to doing my own store in Cherry Creek, and that was Delia's Fabric Affair, and also did Buttons. That was from 1986 to 2006. And it was a tremendous experience of, from a market point of view, I really learned how creative Denver is. And I used to just get so angry when people would call it the cow town, and nobody has any, it's just not true. I never saw it once in my whole 20 years experience. People had incredibly creative and individualistic taste. And what?
Brandy never saw a cow.
Yeah, right. Well,
I can get you stock show tickets.
Yeah, what I like to say is Denver's just such a wonderful mix of the Western Wild West feeling, but we're also a lot of California with the sunshine and the casual lifestyle. We're less East Coast, but a lot of Midwest people came to Denver to get away from the Midwest and come to a city. So we're just a real mixture of rugged individualism, I think, mixed with an urban sense and young, youthful culture. So anyway, I learned all that through Delia's, and my store basically had to close because of a decrease in sewing traffic, and also, and it was quickened by the parking disaster in Cherry Creek North. So my sales just plunged at the time that happened, and I wasn't ready to quit. So my whole passion is textiles and fabrics and the medium that we use for the art of sewing and design. And I found out about a place in Minneapolis. So I'm modeling after a very successful art center up in Minneapolis called the Textile Center. And their website is textilecentermn from Minnesota.org. And if you look at that website, you'll see what we can have in Denver. I mean, that's the single quickest way for me to tell you what my vision is. And I think we can be even better or different. We will be different than Minneapolis is because of that rugged individualism kind of thing. I think we will express. And to keep it shorter, I guess, what happened with Tactile is it's more of an umbrella organization of all the fiber arts. So fashion design is most certainly a definite part of it. It's actually closest to my heart personally, but as the founder and director, I also incorporate all of it. It's knitting, weaving, spinning, dyeing, people who raise animals to spin the fibers, and surface design, texture, media. It's really putting the fiber arts into that art world And it's a new exploration. This month we're talking to the Denver Public Schools art teachers for K through 12, teaching them to start putting fiber and fabric and sewing into the art classes so that we stimulate more designers in this area. So that's exciting. And so that's what our mission is to just get it in the art world and get more young people learning it, because it's not in the schools anymore. Very rarely is it taught in schools. So there'll be more designers in the Colorado area that want to become designers and go into that business. So I think our goal is to help make our community stronger with that creative input. And then the rest of our story is to be an art gallery and a community center for all those people. So guilds meet at Tactile. We have 14 different guild members. The Weavers Guild, the Bead Society, the Button Society, the Sewing Guild, the Lace Makers, Surface Design, Front Range Contemporary Quilters. You just can't even believe how many groups are meeting, and this should be one of them that comes to Tactile. And then when you come together, it's the same concept. You meet, you network, you collaborate, you find out somebody who's doing something you're wishing you knew how to do, or you can hire them to do it for you. I guess we work with both hobbyists and professionals, and that's maybe my challenge, is it's really, those are different groups. Some people don't want to make a business, but those that do really want to. So mixing that up is what we're doing. But we have an art gallery space, and that's what I would like to say to this group is, use us. We're new. I just started this in 2007. So we are struggling just like DDI, and it's just really tough to get an organization started. So at this young stage of our development, we can do a gallery exhibit. I mean, just call me. Let's get it on the schedule and do local Denver designers.
Where are you located?
We're located in a button warehouse in southeast Denver. It's called JHB International Buttons. You've seen their buttons all over the world. It's their shipping and distribution center, and we're in a warehouse, in the second story of their warehouse, and it's at Quincy and Evans, is about the general vicinity of it. Denver Dumb Friends League, if anybody takes their animals there, we're really close to them. So we're, I-25 Evans exit is probably the best way to get there, and then to Quebec. So that, I just want to make it available that we're a location for you to, and then we get in the paper, we get great press because we're nonprofit, we're not for profit. And we want to be an umbrella for all of you and get your visibility out there. We have a big mailing list that's growing all the time, on and on. So that's why I really wanted to speak to the group, because you can tell me what you want us to be, and I'll try to make it happen.
Thank you so much, Diane. And I should say, hopefully we didn't exclude anybody else from this list. So if there's anyone else who is part of an association that wants to come up and speak about it, we should definitely do that. Do we miss anybody that we should be?
I just want to, this is a totally off, I mentioned what I do, which is, maybe you don't even know what it is. Visit Denver is the organization that's contracted by the city to market Denver to visitors and conventions. My passion is visitors, and I work both internationally and domestically, so I do bring travel writers and domestic writers, as well as companies that sell travel, to see what Denver is. And without question, I've been here 12 years. I come from Minnesota, so I know about some of those places in Minnesota, and I shop at Delia's. So. I used to sew, now I just shop and eat and don't do much. But I work and I travel. But my point is that the reaction from people coming to Denver isn't specifically about fashion, but it is about creativity. And there is constant surprise and delight as to what Denver is. And I really think that this component, I talked with Tony Smith about it and others, certainly Mondo and his team. If there are ways that there are public access points, this is the struggle for me. We need to say something about the fashion industry in Denver. But it's hard when you're trying to talk to a consumer who's here for 3 days, who wants to learn about the creative side of Denver. They end up going to the art museum or perhaps a neighborhood shop that you might be part of. But it's difficult for me to articulate and tell that story. So I'm here tonight to learn, and over time, not tonight, but over time to learn how to tell the story of how a casual visitor starts to use that word of mouth and go back where they come from to tell the story of fashion and the creativity in Denver. So if there's any ideas from Delia's and Tactile and other places like that, not Delia's, but Tactile, and other places where public access is possible, that's the part I'm a little confused about, because I went to the Reg Ball and thanks to Tony and other things, but I'm not as able to find that spot. And I'm sad to hear that you're not
I would like to
retailing.
say something, and Kathy had a great idea, but I want to say something real quick about a quick answer to that. There is an organization online called Denver Independent Boutiques.
Okay.
And you can find a list of different boutiques that are locally owned. And I think the percentage was 50% of the designs that are in those boutiques are locally made.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good start.
And Jane, possibly with some of your subcommittees that I'm already part of with Visit Denver, maybe a new subcommittee could be a fashion marketing subcommittee for Visit Denver.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about whether you really want a casual person to stop in. So I'm not pushing my agenda on you. I'm telling you that in the midst of my telling that story, I talk about boutiques. I don't know where they all are. I talk about neighborhoods. I talk about the unique places that are not always the top tier. It's not always the art museum. Sometimes it's a hidden gem in a neighborhood that they're looking for, especially the writers who are trying to find that new storyline. So it's not pushing others to see you and bother you in the middle of the day. But I agree, Tony, I think it's an interesting component, and we continue to tell Denver's story. And this is a piece that I don't know much about. So I'm here to learn, and if there's ways that I can at least talk about your events. If there are events, we have an event calendar that's completely free to participate and get exposure. So if there are public events, then I'm happy to participate. I have lots of business cards because my assistant's really in my purse. That's good.
That's great, because I could fit the exposure piece that came out
Yeah,
of
and I mean,
surveys,
we
so
don't
that's
limit
increased
anything there.
exposure.
And I work with Ginger and Arts and Venues all the time. So this is not about Visit Denver, which is a weird name, but it's the Convention and Visitor Bureau. But it's also about working together with the city to find ways for us to tell that story. So I'm here to do.
Thanks, Jane.
Yeah, so I got lots of cards. I just said, we'll see you after.
If I could just add real quick, and I want to make sure we get through the rest of the agenda, but I think what Jane is describing is a good illustration of the importance of having an association. If I could sort of underscore that, is that in a similar fashion to what I had mentioned at the November meeting, which is from a City of Denver perspective, it's difficult for me as, or any agency to sort of have 20 different people to talk to, and you kind of hear different stories and different voices, and there's no cohesive message. And I would imagine, Jane, that's a similar challenge within, Visit Denver, where you're trying to have you're trying to tell a story, but you don't know whose voice you should be, what story you should be telling. And so, if I could just say again, the importance of a association, which I think everyone are preaching to the choir a little bit, but it's you can leverage those kinds of opportunities in an effective way. And Jane isn't having to make 20 phone calls to make that happen, but she's got one place that she can resource.
Well, like one example is Arts Week. We have Arts Week every year, and fashion industry is not part of it. I mean, that I know of, but it doesn't mean it can't be. And it doesn't mean it has to be a big deal. It could be just a slight nuance to what you already do. So there's ways that we have free publicity, and there's other ways that infrastructure-wise and other things that the city can help with that is completely more complicated. But again, it's all about learning about you, because you're kind of behind a little bit hidden gems, I think. Some of you.
So that's actually, I think, a good segue into the next part of what we want to do tonight. And that's really kind of start to move this forward, because I think that it's great to get everybody in one room and talking about ideas, but I think that all of us, the point, or all of you, I should say, the point is to get this moving along and actually make some decisions about what this association would look like, what kinds of things you want included in it, so you can have a voice in all of that as we move forward. So I'm just going to kind of merge the next two things on the agenda, since we're a little bit behind on time, and ask that we thought that we really wanted everybody's voices to be part of this. And a lot of times when you do group things, as we all know, especially those of you who teach know, some people's voices come out a lot and then we don't hear from other people. So we want to make sure we really get all of your thoughts as part of this meeting today to determine the best way for this group to move forward. So what I'm going to ask you to do is break into groups, whatever feels comfortable to you, really. And if you want to have a group of 5, that's great. If you want to do 2 people, partner up with the person next to you, however you want to do this. But the point is for you to just kind of sit down and brainstorm next steps for this. And as part of that, what I'm going to ask you to do is just kind of talk about your reactions to the survey research that we do have at this point in time. And something that I think is really important that we talked about as a group is how to really engage people in this process. So again, we had 39 responses to the survey. And having come from a research background, I can tell you don't want to make decisions on what 39 people say, right? If you're talking about a huge association that's part of a pretty large industry in Denver. So how can we encourage increased engagement from all sectors of this industry if that's what the association is in fact going to represent? So things like a Facebook page. Any ideas you have for how can we communicate, how can we draw people in so that we end up getting responses that move beyond just the 39 survey responses that we got back. So if you can talk again about your reactions to the survey research, I know we're giving you a lot here, but ways to engage people, communication methods you think would be effective, and then talk about these really sort of nitty-gritty pieces of an association. What's a name for a prospective association? Because one thing we said when we talked is that it's already, people, what do we call the meeting? What do we call this group? Even though it's organic, it doesn't have to be the final name, but what should we start calling this association?
FAD.
Did you
Call
say?
it FAD, Fashion Association of Denver.
I like it. I like it.
And Denver
So-
has to be in the name, I've been told all day long.
But then another thing to think about is if we're moving beyond Denver to Colorado,
Right.
does that name need to be inclusive to Colorado? So I just want you guys as groups to just brainstorm all kinds of different ideas and then go through each of these, Brandy, I'll get you in a second here. Go through each of these bullet points as best you can. Again, fun brainstorming, no wrong answers, and then we're all going to come back together and talk about it and then wrap up the meeting. So the point is to get everybody's voices heard today.